Okay, so 1 in 3 renters in the US didn't pay rent for the month of April, and the economy is in trouble.
My name is Cesar Yanis, and you're watching The CY Show.
Hey there, it's Cesar Yanis, and I want to talk to you about the new data that came out saying that 1 in 3 renters in the US did not pay rent for the month of April, and all the consequences that this can have on the economy, on the mortgage market, on the real estate market, and it's a lot, so stay tuned. Yep, that's crazy data. So the data comes from the National Multifamily Housing Council, and the data reflects 13.4 million units across the country. So 1 in 3 or 33% of 13.4 million units did not pay rent across the country. Now 13.4 units is only 30% of the total renters in the United States. So there's 43 million renters in the United States. So you can take this number, 13.4, that's 30% of 43, so maybe 15, 16 million renters in America did not pay rent in the month of April. So those are crazy stats, and let me just show you what this can lead to. Okay, so let me explain how this all goes down. So this is how it works now. So right now, somebody has a job, that person is a renter. And so that renter works, they have a job, they make money, and with that money, they pay the landlord or owner, whatever you want. And then that landlord uses that rent money to pay the lender or loan servicer, whatever you want to call it as well. And then the money the lender receives from the landlord, they use and give it back to the investors who in the first place put the money for the owner to buy that house so they could rent it to this renter, and they make more money with interest. So everyone's happy here except the renter, probably. All right. So that's how the system works now. Now let me explain what's going on with this whole pandemic. So now this person no longer has a job. So no job. So renter without a job can't make any income, so they can't pay their rent to the landlord. Slash owner. So if the landlord is not making any money from the renter, they can't pay the lender. And if the lender's not getting money from the owner, they can't pay the investor. An investor is sad, can't make return on investment. Okay? So now let's see what's happening now. So because renters could not pay rent in the month of April, the federal government and multiple state governments in each state got involved, and they decided to give 6 to 12 months of rent moratorium. So renters don't have to pay the rent that is owed until 6 to 12 months after, that's crucial, after state of emergency is lifted. So until this thing goes away and until the president says, okay, the country's no longer in a state of emergency, then that's when the renters have 6 to 12 months to pay the rent that is owed. Okay, so this now turns to the landlord or owner, and well, that's not fair for the owner. How are they gonna pay their mortgage if these guys have 6 to 12 months to pay it back? Well, the federal government got involved again with the owners, and they're giving also 6 months forbearance. So owners don't have to pay any late fees or any interest for 6 months on their mortgages. And if that's not enough, then they can extend it another 6 months, make it 12 months in total. So they don't have to pay that they don't have to pay their mortgage. However, this only applies for federally backed mortgages. So what happens with those owners that don't have a federally backed mortgage? Well, they still can't pay the lender, which leads to foreclosures / short sales, which leads to a flood of inventory in the market. Now, if there's a flood of inventory coming into the market and demand is low and supply is high, then prices are going to fall. Okay? So that's kind of what happened in 2008 when there were a ton of foreclosures in the market. There was not enough demand, a ton of supply, and prices fell drastically. So this is what can happen with owners that don't have federally backed mortgages. I don't know how many of those don't have federally backed, and who knows what demand is going to be like. This is the variable. So now, well, these guys got bailed out, people with federally backed mortgages, so now all the pressure's in the lender. So to put this in perspective, Moody's Analytics came out with some stats. So if 1 in 4 families with a mortgage, if 1 in 4 families with a mortgage take up the federal government on these 6 months of forbearance, then lenders have to come up with $70 billion for investors. Now, if this 1 in 4 family decides to take up the 12 months, then that doubles $140 billion that lenders have to come up for investors. Now, to put this in perspective, Moody's also has the numbers of lenders and their business. So in 2019, lenders had a net profit of less than 10 billion. What? So lenders only made about less than 10 billion in profit last year. So how the heck are they supposed to come up with 70 or 140 billion? So these guys are in trouble. They need 140 bill or 70, somewhere in between. Now, while having to come up with this money, they also have to take new applications of people that still want to get mortgages, still want to buy some houses, get in the market. So they're stuck trying to do new applications, refinances, and also come up with this money. So if that doesn't happen, the federal government needs to help these guys. So if they can't come up with the money, obviously investors won't get paid, they won't make their return on investment, and these guys can possibly sell notes, crappy notes. So these are the loans that are not being paid for, so the owners are not paying these loans, and these investors can decide to sell those notes that are not making any money. And something again like a secondary market, subprime mortgage-backed securities could lead to mortgage crisis again. Crisis. So this is something that happened in 2008. If they're selling crap of securities, mortgage-backed securities. Now, if the federal government doesn't get involved, either give the lenders 140 billion or the number between to pay investors, or doesn't give it to investors directly, then these guys won't be able to get new business, make new business. So no new applications, no refinances. Buyers will struggle to find loan. So there's going to be it's going to be very hard to find money, so a lender that can lend the money. So mortgage crisis also here. Crisis. I wish you have better handwriting, but I'm trying to write fast. And now the owners that don't have federally backed mortgages that are probably going to get foreclosed or have to sell their home, and then all those houses flooding the inventory, low demand, high supply, prices falling, also leads to mortgage crisis. Because if prices are falling, that'll affect the prices of other houses that are not in mortgage trouble, so that'll lead to mortgage crisis. So pretty much this is the scenario right now. People don't have jobs, they can't pay the rent to their owners can't pay their mortgage, lenders can't pay the investors. So the federal government has been getting involved. They're helping renters, they're helping owners with federally backed mortgages. Here, the problem we have here is the owners that don't have federally backed mortgages, and now the federal government has to get involved and help the lenders out or help the investors, so we don't go down this same cycle that we went in last time, where it's going to be fine to get mortgages or investors can decide to sell crappy notes, which I thought that will happen because I'm sure there's a lot more guidelines on that. So simply put, the situation's getting bad and the federal government better get involved quick, help out the lenders or investors, give them the money directly, so this doesn't get even worse than it already is and we don't get back into this mortgage crisis. So I hope this information was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you're enjoying the content. Stay tuned for more. Peace.
Give me every time.